Chambers located at 1716 West Main Street, Gumbel City, Texas, on Monday, June 8th, 2026 at 5 p.m. I call this meeting to order. If I could, I'd like to establish a quorum. A roll call from my left, please.
Burns here.
Lander here.
Jacobs here.
Proper here.
Edwards here.
We have a quorum. Citizens' comments. Do we have any? Having none, we will move on. New business. 4A, a discussion regarding the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget. Our sponsor on this item will be our city manager, Dr. Smith.
Mayor, is there a desire to move down to the tables in front to have more of a roundtable discussion, or do you want to stay here at the dais?
I would probably prefer the tables.
Tables?
It doesn't matter to me.
We'll go to the tables then.
Okay. I'm going to invite Mickey up to participate.
Oh, my